0. Teachers already deal with wild kids, but sometimes the real chaos comes from their parents. From lawsuits over fidget spinners to complaints about the smell of pencils, these parents turned ordinary classrooms into full-blown comedy sketches. Let's count down 69 of the dumbest parent complaints about teachers ever recorded. 1. A mother once filed a formal complaint because her son's history teacher was, and I quote, teaching things that happened in the past. She was apparently under the impression that a history class should focus more on current events and future possibilities. She genuinely argued that learning about the Civil War was depressing her child and demanded the curriculum be updated to include more optimistic topics, like the history of viral cat videos. Yes, really. She wanted historical events to be more cheerful. 2. A high school biology teacher received an enraged email from a parent furious that their daughter failed a test on photosynthesis. The reason for the anger? The father claimed the teacher was biased against his family because they are carnivores. He insisted that teaching his daughter about how plants make food was a direct attack on their meat-eating lifestyle, and demanded she be given an alternative assignment, preferably one about the majesty of the food chain's apex predators. 3. One teacher got a formal complaint because she used a red pen to grade papers. The parents claimed the color red is psychologically aggressive and was causing their sensitive and artistic son severe anxiety. They even attached a printout from a questionable wellness blog as evidence. The proposed solution wasn't to use a different color, but for the teacher to write all corrections in glitter gel pen, using only positive, affirming language, even when marking an answer as completely wrong. 4. In a parent-teacher conference, a dad complained that the PE teacher was making gym class too focused on physical activity. His son came home tired and sweaty every Tuesday, which the father felt was unacceptable. He suggested that instead of running laps and playing dodgeball, the class should engage in more mindful movement, like slow-motion walking or competitive breathing exercises, to avoid any unnecessary exertion or, heaven forbid, perspiration. 5. A teacher was reported to the principal for witchcraft after a simple science experiment. She was demonstrating static electricity by having students rub balloons on their hair to make it stand up. A parent, who apparently time-traveled from the 1600s, called the school in a panic, accusing the teacher of casting spells on the children and using dark arts to manipulate their hair follicles. She demanded the school check the teacher for any hidden warts or a suspicious familiarity with black cats. 6. There was a parent who complained that her first grader's teacher wasn't preparing him for the real world. Why? Because the teacher was reading fairy tales like Cinderella and Jack and the Beanstalk. The mother argued these stories were giving her son unrealistic expectations about life, such as the existence of magic pumpkins and talking animals. She demanded the teacher switch to more practical reading material, like the user manual for a microwave or selected passages from the IRS tax code. 7. A music teacher found himself in hot water after a parent complained he was forcing his musical opinions on the students. The crime was teaching the class a song by the Beatles. The father was furious, stating that his child should only be exposed to real music, which in his view was exclusively 1980s hair metal. He even sent the teacher a mixtape with bands like Mötley Crüe and Poison to use as a proper curriculum. 8. After a geography lesson on different continents, a teacher received a bizarre complaint from a mother who was adamant that the teacher stop teaching her child about the existence of France. Her reasoning was that she had a really bad vacation in Paris once, and didn't want her daughter to know that such a rude and overpriced country even existed. She suggested the teacher simply refer to that part of the map as Western Europe's big empty spot. 9. A kindergarten teacher was officially reprimanded after a parent complained that she was promoting a sedentary lifestyle. The teacher had implemented a 15-minute quiet time where the 5-year-olds could lay on mats and rest. The parent, a hardcore CrossFit enthusiast, argued this was teaching children to be lazy and demanded the quiet time be replaced with toddler burpees and nap time negating nano workouts to maximize their caloric burn throughout the day. 10. An English teacher was accused of class discrimination for teaching Shakespeare. A parent claimed that the old-fashioned language was a deliberate attempt to make students from normal modern families feel stupid. He argued that if his son couldn't understand the text just by looking at it, then it shouldn't be taught. He insisted the class should instead analyze the literary depth of more accessible texts, like the scripts from the Fast and Furious movies. 11. An algebra teacher found himself in a surreal meeting after a dad complained the class was mixing letters with numbers. When the teacher calmly explained that letters simply represent unknown values, the father snapped back, "So, why not use a smiling poop emoji? My kid understands that." He was dead serious, arguing that letters were a gateway to confusion and that math should stick to what it knows best, numbers. He actually wanted to solve for the poop emoji. 12. A teacher's private social media became a public issue when a parent found a vacation photo of her holding a margarita. The parent accused her of promoting a decadent alcoholic lifestyle, as if the teacher was hosting a kegger in the kindergarten reading corner instead of being on her own time, hundreds of miles away. The mother's demand? A parent committee must pre-approve all future vacation photos to ensure they remained G-rated and sufficiently bland. 13. A field trip to a dairy farm resulted in a complaint that the child was emotionally scarred by the aggressive farm odors. The mother insisted the smell of actual nature had violated her son's personal airspace and demanded the school pay for aromatherapy. Her ultimate solution for the future? All nature trips should be done via VR headsets. After all, why expose children to the actual planet when you can show them a sanitized, smell-free digital version of it? 14. An art teacher faced a mother's fury because her son came home with a tiny, washable paint smudge on his designer shirt. She didn't just complain. She sent the school a formal invoice for $2.50 for emotional and textile damages. Her suggestion to prevent future tragedies? All art classes must become paint-free, brush-free, and basically art-free. Just tablets. Because God forbid a child gets creative on his clothes. 15. When a teacher confiscated a fidget spinner, enforcing the simple "no toys" rule, the student's father stormed in. He wasn't just asking for it back, he was threatening a lawsuit. He claimed the toy was a certified emotional support device, and that the teacher had violated his son's civil rights under the Fidgety Fingers Freedom Act of 2017, an act he appeared to have drafted in his head on the drive over. 16. A father tried to report his daughter's elementary school to the Department of Labor for assigning 20 minutes of nightly homework. He argued this was a clear case of uncompensated intellectual work and a violation of child labor laws. He even presented the principal with a detailed spreadsheet calculating that the school owed his daughter $47.50 for the semester's work, based on state minimum wage. He had even factored in overtime for a particularly tough math worksheet. 17. Sir Reginald the hamster became the center of an existential crisis. A mother demanded his removal after seeing him running on his wheel, concerned it was teaching her son that endless, repetitive exercise with no destination is a valid life choice. She was genuinely terrified her son would see this, abandon his pre-planned Ivy League trajectory, and pursue a professional career running in place. 18. A geography teacher was accused of being unpatriotic because the United States wasn't in the exact center of the world map in her classroom. A father called it a subtle form of anti-American propaganda and demanded she get a geopolitically accurate map, one where his home state of Kansas was the literal physical center of the entire planet. Apparently, world geography should revolve around the Midwest. 19. A mother complained that the school's water fountains were hydrating her child incorrectly. She insisted the standard tap water from the fountain was too acidic and was actively disrupting her son's delicate pH balance. She didn't just want bottled water. She demanded the school install a reverse osmosis, alkaline water system for all students, and sent the principal a 12-page PDF on the dangers of non-alkalized hydration. 20. When a school went nut-free to protect a child with a deadly allergy, one father treated it not as a safety measure, but as a personal attack. He wrote a 3-page email claiming that denying his son a peanut butter sandwich was a direct violation of his constitutional right to protein choice. He unironically put a child's actual life on the same level as his son's preferred lunch spread. 21. A male teacher came back from summer break with a new, well-groomed beard. A mother's reaction? File a formal complaint that his facial hair looked untrustworthy and intimidating. But she didn't stop there. She actually photoshopped his official staff photo, digitally shaving him. and emailed it to the principal with the subject line, "An easy fix for a more approachable learning environment." Who does that? 22. A complaint was logged against a teacher because the classroom was, according to a parent, too cold. The reason wasn't just comfort. The father claimed the 70-degree temperature was slowing down his son's cognitive brainwaves and preventing him from reaching his full academic potential. His solution wasn't a sweater, but for the teacher to allow his son to have a personal plug-in space heater at his desk. When told it was a fire hazard, the father asked, "What's more important, a hypothetical fire or my son's genius?" 23. An art teacher was reported for auditory pollution. A parent claimed the sound of students' pencils and crayons on paper was grating and stressful, creating an environment that stifled true creativity. She insisted that this constant scratching noise was giving her daughter anxiety. Her proposed solution was for the school to ban all traditional drawing tools and mandate that every student, even kindergartners, use only silent felt-tip pens for all assignments. Imagine grading that. 24. A first-grade teacher was formally criticized for being excessively cheerful in the mornings. A parent wrote a serious email claiming the teacher's bright and sunny disposition at 8 a.m. set an unrealistic emotional precedent for the day. The complaint actually said, "No one is that happy when the sun comes up. It's suspicious." She was afraid her child would grow up expecting the world to be a happy place, a delusion the mother was working hard to prevent. 25. A high school student got a 100% on a major exam, earning a solid A. The parents were furious. They stormed into a meeting, not to celebrate, but to complain that there was no A+ option on the report card. The mother argued, "An A is just the baseline. By not offering an A+, you are actively capping our daughter's potential." They accused the teacher of grade suppression and trying to make their daughter look like an average high achiever. 26. After a child got a minor paper cut, his mother demanded a school-wide policy change. She wanted all teachers to be required to pre-round the corners of every single sheet of paper in their classrooms before handing them out. She referred to the paper cut as a grievous classroom injury and accused the teacher of distributing unsafe, sharp-edged materials. Are we really expecting teachers to become professional paper corner rounders now? 27. A teacher asked her second graders to bring in a family photo for a Star of the Week poster. One parent flatly refused, sending a letter from a lawyer, or at least a letter that looked like one. They accused the teacher of attempting to mine personal data on family structures for unknown purposes, and claimed the simple request was a violation of their privacy. The teacher just wanted a cute picture of the kid with his dog. 28. The mother of a fourth grader complained that her son wasn't popular enough and that it was the teacher's fault. She claimed the teacher's suboptimal seating chart algorithm was deliberately keeping her son away from the alpha social influencers in the class. She demanded the teacher actively re-engineer the classroom social hierarchy to ensure her son was perceived as a leader. Her exact words were, "It's your job to make him cool." 29. An English teacher was flagged for devaluing the English language by overusing the word awesome. A parent complained that by calling a student's well-written paragraph awesome, the teacher was leaving her son with no words left to describe truly magnificent events, like the birth of a sibling or the Grand Canyon. She submitted a list of pre-approved, less hyperbolic adjectives for the teacher to use instead. 30. A school district used Google Classroom for all assignments. One father, a devoted Apple enthusiast, filed a formal complaint. His issue wasn't with the software's functionality. It was with its inferior user interface design. He argued that daily exposure to Google's platform was stunting his child's aesthetic development and demanded his son be allowed to submit all work via an Apple-exclusive platform to protect his refined design sensibilities. 31. After school picture day, a mother demanded a full refund and a class-wide retake. Why? Because in her son's photo, a single strand of his hair was out of place. She blamed the teacher for this catastrophic oversight, claiming the teacher should have acted as a personal stylist and on-set supervisor for all 25 students. She argued her son's personal brand had been damaged and the teacher was directly responsible. 32. A kindergarten teacher, who was about 6 feet tall, received a bizarre complaint about her height. A parent claimed she was physically intimidating to the 5-year-olds and that her stature created an unapproachable power dynamic. The parent's absurd solution was that the teacher should conduct all lessons while sitting on a low stool or on her knees, to be at eye level with the children at all times. She was literally complaining about the teacher's skeleton. 33. A parent filed a complaint against the school bell. Not because it was too loud, but because it was an instrument of authoritarian control that disrupts the natural flow of learning. He argued that the auditory aggression of a timed bell system taught children to be cogs in a machine. His solution? To replace the bells with a gentle, intuitive system, where teachers would simply sense when a lesson has organically concluded and dismiss students individually. 34. After the cast list for the 3rd grade play was posted, a mother demanded an emergency meeting. Her son was cast as Tree Number 2. She didn't complain that he didn't have a speaking role. She complained that being cast as a tree was planting a seed of mediocrity in his psyche and would typecast him as a background character in his own life. She actually demanded the play be rewritten to include a heroic monologue-giving tree. 35. A teacher with a slightly difficult-to-pronounce last name, Mr. Wojciechowski, received a formal complaint from a parent. The issue? The name had too many consonants and was causing the parent's child undue phonetic stress. The parent insisted that being forced to learn the name was a distraction from actual learning and demanded the teacher legally change his name, or, at the very least, adopt a simpler stage name for classroom use, like Mr. W. 36. One teacher kept finding her classroom bulletin board rearranged overnight. It turned out a parent, who was a self-proclaimed feng shui consultant, was sneaking in after hours to correct the classroom's energy flow. She left a note claiming the teacher's original layout was creating a vortex of negative qi right over the math corner. She even brought in her own crystals to place on the whiteboard to amplify positive learning vibrations. 37. A 1st grade teacher was accused of negligent inventory management after a student lost a single mitten during recess. The father didn't just ask if she'd seen it. He accused her of running a black market for single winter garments and demanded access to the school's security footage to track the mitten's last known whereabouts. He was convinced there was a conspiracy, and his son's lone mitten was the key to unraveling it all. 38. A complaint was filed with the Parks and Recreation Department, naming a specific kindergarten teacher. Why? A father claimed the playground slide was irresponsibly fast, and that the teacher was encouraging reckless behavior by letting kids use it. He argued that the brief thrill of the slide was training a generation of adrenaline junkies who would be unable to handle the slow, methodical pace of a corporate office job in the future. 39. An elementary school's simple Valentine's Day card exchange was met with a furious email from a mother. She accused the teacher of promoting the idea that affection is transactional. Quoting a sociologist she probably invented, she argued that the structured giving of cards was teaching children to quantify their relationships and was an early primer for a life of emotional capitalism. She just wanted her kid to give and receive some candy hearts. 40. A teacher had to mediate a dispute after a parent complained about the smell of another student's lunch. The child was eating a homemade curry, and the parent claimed the exotic and overpowering aroma was distracting her son from his multiplication tables. Her proposed solution was not to ask her son to move, but to enforce a scent-free lunch zone, where only bland, odorless foods like plain crackers and unseasoned chicken were permitted. 41. The physical building of a school came under fire when a parent complained that the color of the exterior bricks was academically stifling. He was an amateur color theorist and claimed the school's muted beige-adjacent terracotta was proven to suppress dopamine levels and inhibit creative thought. He demanded the entire school be repainted in a vibrant shade of teal to unlock the students' full intellectual potential. 42. A music teacher was reported because a parent didn't like the sound of her voice. Not what she was saying, but the literal frequency of her vocal cords. The mother claimed the teacher's voice had a non-conducive pitch for optimal auditory learning, and even brought in a smartphone app to prove that her tone was 20 Hz off the ideal frequency for concentration. Can you imagine having your actual voice reviewed for performance? 43. After a trip to the school library, a father complained that the books were too old. He wasn't concerned about outdated information. He was disgusted by the musty smell of intellectual decay. He argued that exposing his daughter to books that had been touched by countless unknown hands was unhygienic, and that the library should replace its entire collection with brand new, shrink-wrapped books on a yearly basis. Because knowledge, apparently, has an expiration date. 44. A teacher received a formal complaint for failure to respond in a timely manner. The issue: she hadn't replied to a parent's email, an email that was sent at 2:37 a.m. The parent was furious that she had to wait until 7 a.m. for a response, arguing that educational emergencies don't adhere to a 9-to-5 schedule. The emergency in question was a question about a permission slip for a field trip 3 weeks away. 45. A parent demanded the immediate deactivation of the school's Wi-Fi network. She showed up to a parent-teacher conference with a handheld EMF meter to prove her point, claiming the unregulated electromagnetic frequencies were scrambling her child's brainwaves and preventing him from concentrating. Her proposed solution was for the school to run individual Ethernet cables to all 500 student desks for a safer, hardwired learning experience. 46. In a bizarre twist on school sports, a mother complained because her son won the 50-yard dash on field day. She was genuinely upset, arguing that by celebrating his victory, the school had made him feel exclusionarily special, which in turn was damaging the self-esteem of the kids who ran slower. Her exact words were, "Celebrating one winner creates 100 tiny emotional losses for the other children." So, is the goal now to run slower? 47. A science teacher was teaching a lesson on prehistory when a parent physically pulled their child out of the classroom. Later, the parent filed a complaint, claiming that the existence of dinosaurs is a well-known hoax created by scientists to sell museum tickets. She demanded the teacher present the alternative theory that the fossils were just unusually shaped rocks, and to stop pushing the dinosaur agenda. 48. An English teacher was reported to the administration for his choice of font. The parent, a graphic designer, was livid that the class syllabus was typed in Times New Roman, calling it typographically hostile. In a long, detailed email, she claimed that the aggressive serifs create a subconscious sense of dread and formality. She insisted he switch all future documents to Comic Sans to foster a more whimsical and approachable learning journey for high schoolers. 49. After a creative writing assignment, a mother complained that the teacher was instructing her son in the art of deception. Her son had written an imaginative story about being a secret agent on a mission. The mother took this completely literally, accusing the teacher of encouraging her son to lie. "First, he's writing about lying for his country," she argued. "Next, he'll be lying to me about whether he's finished his chores." 50. A father with a background in logistics became obsessed with the school's carpool line, calling it a masterclass in logistical incompetence. He didn't just complain, he submitted a 14-page operational improvement plan, complete with color-coded flowcharts, time motion studies, and suggestions for implementing a just-in-time student retrieval system. He was treating the 15-minute pickup window like he was redesigning an Amazon fulfillment center. 51. A kindergarten teacher decorated the classroom for Halloween with some cotton spider webs. This prompted a parent to demand their immediate removal, claiming they were triggering her severe arachnophobia. When the teacher gently pointed out that the webs were fake and made of fluffy cotton, the mother snapped back, "My phobia doesn't distinguish between real and decorative. It's the idea of the spider." 52. A teacher's personal coffee mug, which read, "Don't talk to me before I've had my coffee," became the subject of a formal complaint. A parent saw it on her desk during a visit and accused her of promoting substance dependency to impressionable minds. She argued the mug normalized caffeine addiction and suggested the teacher instead use one with an inspirational quote about the natural energy derived from a good night's sleep. 53. A high school teacher enforced the long-standing no hats in class rule. One father was outraged, claiming the rule suppressed his son's core identity. He argued with a straight face that his son's entire sense of self was inextricably linked to his worn-out baseball cap and that asking him to remove it was tantamount to stripping him of his personhood. All this over a simple dress code rule. 54. A child went home and told his mom the teacher put him in timeout. The mother immediately called the school, threatening to report the teacher for unlawful detainment and false imprisonment. The teacher's actual crime? Asking the disruptive 6-year-old to sit at a separate, calm-down corner desk for 3 minutes to stop him from throwing crayons at other students. Apparently, that now requires a legal defense. 55. After a field trip to a local museum, a mother complained about the school bus. Not its safety or cleanliness, but its windows. She argued that the small, grimy windows failed to provide a sufficiently cinematic viewing experience during the drive. She insisted the journey was part of the education, and that the school should have rented a luxury tour bus with panoramic glass to maximize the peripheral learning opportunities. 56. A parent complained that unstructured recess was a chaotic void of unproductivity. He argued that allowing children 20 minutes of free play was teaching them poor time management skills. He submitted a color-coded, minute-by-minute schedule for his son's recess, which included strategic socializing, cardio optimization, and imaginative play debriefing sessions. He wanted recess to be run like a corporate team-building exercise. 57. A teacher who drove a beat-up, 15-year-old car was the subject of a bizarre complaint. A parent argued that the teacher's economically depressing vehicle, when parked in the school lot, was bad for the school's brand image and could subconsciously signal to students that a career in education leads to financial ruin. She didn't offer to help the teacher. She just demanded he park it off campus. 58. A mother insisted the entire first-grade classroom become a certified gluten-free zone. The reason? Her son, who did not have celiac disease or any allergy, was suffering from what she called ambient gluten fog. She claimed that just being in the same room as a sandwich was clouding his concentration and demanded all 24 other children change their diets to accommodate her scientifically baseless theory. 59. When a teacher reported a student for constantly disrupting the class by building elaborate forts under his desk, his parents were not concerned. They were proud. They claimed his behavior wasn't disruptive. It was a clear manifestation of his advanced architectural and engineering genius. They demanded he be given a larger desk and better materials, essentially asking the teacher to facilitate the construction of a small fortress in the middle of math class. 60. A complaint was filed about the sun. Yes, the actual sun. A mother was upset that the natural light coming through the classroom windows was too bright and unfiltered, creating a glare on the whiteboard. She dismissed the idea of just pulling down the blinds, arguing that was a low-tech and aesthetically displeasing solution. Her demand: the school needed to install museum-grade, UV filtering, automatic smart tinting windows in the entire building. 61. A teacher received a tearful, angry phone call from a mother who was furious she hadn't been asked to volunteer for the class field trip. The teacher explained that she simply drew names from a hat. The mother took this as a deep personal insult, accusing the teacher of deliberately excluding her from her child's educational journey and playing favorites with the PTA moms. 62. After the class hamster, Nibbles, passed away from old age, the teacher helped the children through a simple, gentle lesson about life. This prompted a parent to complain about the lack of a formal bereavement process. She demanded the school hold a mandatory memorial service, provide professional grief counseling for all students, and create a trauma-informed hamster bereavement resource guide for parents. For a hamster. 63. A science teacher's lesson on the water cycle was flagged as dangerously inaccurate by a parent. He was furious that the teacher's diagram didn't include a step for municipal water filtration and purification. He argued that by showing water evaporating from a lake and returning as rain, she was encouraging children to drink puddle water. He was unable to grasp the concept of a simplified scientific model. 64. A parent, while dropping off a forgotten lunchbox, saw the teacher eating a slice of leftover pizza at her desk. The next day, a complaint landed on the principal's desk. The mother accused the teacher of promoting poor nutritional choices and setting a terrible metabolic example. She requested a full dietary audit of the teacher's personal lunches for the remainder of the school year. 65. A complaint was filed against an English teacher because his voice was insufficiently theatrical when reading literature aloud to his high school class. The parent claimed his monotone delivery was sucking the life out of the prose and was a disservice to classic authors. Her proposed solution was for the school district to pay for the teacher to attend mandatory evening acting classes to improve his dramatic range. 66. When a third-grade teacher began a unit on cursive writing, a father stormed in to protest. His concern wasn't that it was an obsolete skill. He was convinced that teaching his 8-year-old to sign his name was a gateway to him signing legally binding contracts without fully understanding them. He saw the innocent loops of a cursive L as the first step toward his son accidentally signing away his inheritance. 67. The school's long-standing mascot, the bulldog, became the target of a bizarre complaint. A parent who was an outspoken cat lover claimed the mascot represented a culture of canine-centric propaganda and was alienating to students from feline-oriented households. She demanded the school either adopt a second feline co-mascot or replace the bulldog with a more species-neutral mascot, like a mythical griffin. 68. A first-grade teacher was using a simple gold star sticker system to reward good behavior and effort. She was accused by a parent of devaluing the currency of achievement through praise inflation. The father argued that by giving out too many stars for menial tasks, she was creating a generation of children who would expect a trophy just for showing up. He wanted a more stringent and meritocratic reward economy for 6-year-olds. 69. And for the grand finale, a teacher sneezed. She covered her mouth and turned away from the students, but a parent volunteer witnessed it. Later that day, a complaint was filed. Not because of germs. The parent accused the teacher of disrupting the classroom's spiritual harmony. She claimed that the teacher, by failing to say "excuse me" to an empty corner of the room, had offended the classroom's guardian spirit. Yes, she was complaining about ghost etiquette. 70. And that's 69 parent complaints so absurd, they make detention look like paradise. Now I need to know, if you were a teacher, which of these parents would you have snapped at first? The protein freedom peanut butter dad? Or the mom offended by a sneeze? Drop your choice in the comments and argue it out. And if you actually laughed today, prove it. Hit like, smash subscribe, and let's keep exposing the dumbest moments America has to offer.